Hello there, welcome to my world of stuff. My name is Paul Mount. I just realised that this is my first video in a week. First proper video of the new year after my films of the year and my Doctor Who episode review, and time has gone so quickly. I haven't intended to have this break, but it's just sort of happened this week. January is one of those sort of hibernation months where you don't really do a lot unless you really have to. So I've just been at home reading, chilling, watching a bit of TV, a couple of films. Check out some reviews that are online on the Starburst Magazine website, www.starburstmagazine.com, where you will see that I've reviewed a couple of recent films, and there's some more reviews coming up soon. So yeah, I haven't been in front of the camera, but that's purely coincidental. It wasn't necessarily an intentional thing. But I thought I better get back up there and put something online, and what better for my next review than an overlook full of spoilers for the latest Dexter series, New Blood, which has been airing on Sky Showcase over here. It's also available on the Now platform, and I think it was screening on Showtime in America. I've just seen the last episode, so this review is full of spoilers. This review is probably going to go live just as the episode debuts in the UK. I've had a chance to see it a little bit early because I couldn't wait. So there will be full of spoilers. So if you're watching Dexter New Blood, you haven't seen the last episode, give this video a skip until you've seen it. If you've seen the series, then stick with me. Right, Dexter. Dexter was one of my favourite series of the early noughties. Created by, the character of Dexter Morgan was created by writer Jeff Lindsay, who wrote a series of books about this serial killing anti-hero. Series came to the screen in 2006. And ran for 8 seasons, finally finished in September 2013. It was shown on Showtime in America. I think it was Sky One over here. I was drawn to this series because it starred Michael C. Hall, who'd become a favourite actor of mine because of his role as David Fisher in the Alan Ball created series 6 Feet Under, which again is another one of my favourite TV shows. 5 seasons of just classy black comedy drama, with a really dark heart. If you've never seen 6 Feet Under, I'm not sure what platform it's available on, but seek it out because it's a terrific series. I think it's 10, 12 episodes per season, but so beautifully structured. And it had a great ensemble cast, one of whom was Michael C. Hall, who played David Fisher. So when I heard that his next project was going to be another TV series based on this slightly ambiguous but very likeable and plausible serial killer, I was intrigued, and I started watching the series and I was completely hooked on it. I thought it was absolutely terrific, and for certainly his first 4 to 5 years, probably the best show on television, because the writing was stunning, the plotting was exemplary, the performances absolutely fantastic. It had a really small but perfect cast of recurring characters, and you had a sort of guest villain who came across in every series. The theme of the series, if you're not familiar with Dexter and you really need to catch up with it, Michael C. Hall is the blood splatter analyst working for Miami Metro. He's the one who goes to the scene of the crime, gathers up evidence from the positions of blood and where blood is splattered after somebody's been brutally murdered, and puts together part of the evidence for a prosecution. However, during the course of his job, he's become aware that sometimes on various technicalities and certain other points, people who he knows are guilty get away with murders, and sometimes he even identifies people who are murderers who've never been brought to justice. He has a certain psychological condition caused by trauma in his youth. He was, as he says, born in blood, and he has what he calls this dark passenger, who effectively is his father, Harry, who's sort of guiding him from beyond the grave. He's given him a sort of code, a killer's code. It's all very clinical and very cold, and Dexter basically goes out and kills people who've escaped justice or who are likely to become killers. That's his code. He never kills anybody who's good. He's got his own particular morality. And the whole of the series of Dexter was basically about him doing what he did, coming across new nemesis in each series who looked as if they were going to uncover his secret. But Dexter would inevitably foil them at every turn and outwit them and outthink them, and kept his secret. And that was the fun of the series, watching how well it was written and well put together, because Dexter got himself in extraordinary situations with some incredible adversaries. In the first series, we had a chap called the Ice Pick Killer. I think it was season 4, which was probably the peak of the series. You had John Lithgow, who played the Trinity Killer, a astonishing performance. John Lithgow playing against Michael C. Hall was just television dynamite. Incredible season. But Dexter invariably managed to worm his way out of being discovered because he was a well-liked member of society. He was this sort of cheery chappie who drifted in and out of the office. But he was fractured. He was troubled. He had difficulty making relationships, but through the course of the series, he did make relationships and he softened up a little bit. But he never lost that serial killer instinct that he had. The problem was that, good as the series was, I think it started straining credibility in its last 2 or 3 seasons, and it just wasn't as good. It wasn't as tight anymore. There was some repetition coming in, and things that were happening that were too extraordinary, even for a series as heightened as this. So the show ended in 2013 with its 8th season. I think it's generally felt that it ended at a low point. The original showrunner was a chap called Clyde Phillips, so I think he was there for 4 years, and that's when the series quality did start to dip. New people came along with new ideas and a new direction for the show, and it didn't feel the same. So when the show ended in 2013, it was an ambiguous ending with Dexter's sister, Deborah Morgan, played by Jennifer Carpenter. She died. Lots of the people who knew his secret had died, and he realised that the only way out was to leave Miami, fashion a way by which it looked as if he'd been killed in a hurricane that was approaching Miami, and then he disappeared. And the last shot we saw of him in that series was him in, frankly, rather silly Monty Python stick-on beard, supposed to be a lumberjack in the middle of nowhere, effectively starting out a new life. It was a disappointing ending. Nobody was extremely happy with it. I didn't think it was terrible. I liked the fact that he'd escaped and he was still out there. But I understand why people were frustrated by it. I understand why people felt it betrayed the character, and it was unsatisfying. And that was it. Dexter was gone and done and dusted, and we thought, well, that was a great show up to a point. I was quite excited when I learned last year or the year before, it may well have been now, that Dexter was going to return in a limited run series called Dexter New Blood, which would pick up, not exactly where that series left off, but it would pick up the threads that were still dangling. Because I think that Clyde Phillips was back as the showrunner. I think that he and Michael C. Hall realised that the show hadn't ended in a satisfactory way, and that it did not deliver the payoff that its fans and admirers and viewers had demanded and deserved after sticking with it for 8 years. Because the show was growing in popularity every year. So, and apparently there had been sort of plans and ideas and various proposals put forward to continue the series in the interim period, but none of them were quite right and none of them came to fruition. So now we've had Dexter New Blood, which has just ended. And as I say, there are going to be spoilers in the video because I can't talk about this fully without spoiling it. And you'll also want to keep off social media because I'm sure it's all over the place what happens in the final episode. We pick up now with Dexter, the beginning of this series. And one of the good things about this series is that where the original series was set in the humidity and stifling heat of Miami, now he's pitched up in a place called Iron Lake, which is a backwoods sort of nowhere town with a population of about 2,000, out in the wilds, in the snowy wastes. It's a very bleak and cold location, and it's a nice sort of counterbalance to that, as I say, to the Miami location of the original series. Dexter's now living under the pseudonym of Jim Lindsay, which of course is a nod to James Lindsay, Jeff Lindsay rather, who wrote the original books. That's a nice little touch. And he's living very much off the grid. He works in the local gun shop. He's in a relationship with the local police chief, played by Julia Jones, who becomes a core character in the series. And he's just blending into this new community and getting along very well, enjoying line dancing and just having a life. He's not killed for years, but he still is haunted by... In the original series, his father was sort of the voice in his ear. Now it's Deborah, his deceased sister, which allows Jennifer Carpenter to come back into the show, which was great because she was such an enormous, foul-mouthed presence in the original series. It's nice to see her back. But she's sort of his conscience, if you like, who appears and sort of tries to keep him on the straight and narrow. Circumstances transpire across the first couple of episodes where he finds himself having to kill again. And that, unfortunately, sets in a chain of events which leads to pretty cataclysmic finale. I mean, I just love this series from episode to episode. He really built. The first couple of episodes were a bit, okay, this is nice. It's nice to see Dexter back. It didn't seem to necessarily be adding much to the canon apart from the fact that Dexter's still out there. But it was just fascinating to see the way it was all slotted together. And you can see the craft of the writing and the plotting and the acting that makes it all work. It's like a finely tooled machine, the way it's been all intricately put together. And it does the things that Dexter always did with these close scrapes where you think he's going to be discovered. When somebody finds out who he is and he's got to cover things up, and it's edge of the seat sort of cliffhanger type things. And it does that week after week across the 10-episode run. By episode 4 or 5, it was really picking up speed and it was heading somewhere quite dark. The theme of this series basically is his new blood. The new blood really is Harrison, his son, who's played with great confidence by Jack Alcott. I mean, at the end of the previous series, Dexter's son Harrison was about 4 or 5, so I think they've possibly stretched the timeline a little. And Dexter left him behind with his new partner, who was played, if I recall correctly, by Julia Stiles. But we'd seen in previous episodes that it looked as if Harrison had possibly some of his own slightly violent tendencies, and that's played on very nicely here. It's 10 years later now. Julia Stiles' character has died, and Harrison, played now, as I said, by Jack Alcott, is looking for his father. When he finds him, he tracks him down. And they embark on a slightly fractured relationship because, of course, Dexter's not expecting to see his son again. He's got to explain to his new family of friends who this newcomer is. And it exposes Dexter to his own emotional responses that he's been, his past, if you like, which he's been keeping secret for a long time. Of course, there's a serial killer on the loose. Young girls have been missing for 20, 25 years. They've just disappeared off the face of the earth. Dexter eventually finds out who this is, and his son eventually finds out who Dexter is. And he, for a while, sort of sympathizes with Dexter. He understands what Dexter's methodology is, and he sort of sympathizes with it because he feels it too. He's got the same dark passenger in him, if you like. That's that same urge, and we see that in a couple of scenes where he's involved at the local high school, and he carries out his own form of justice on a couple of the bullying lads in the school. So there's lots and lots of stuff seeded in here, and I have to say that the whole series, now it's finished and I've seen the way it ended, I couldn't have asked for a better ending for the whole series. And as the last few episodes come along, you can feel the narrative net tightening around him. You can feel that Dexter's not going to get out of this one. He's not going to talk his way out of this one. And in the final episode, which is, I was literally this morning watching this, and I was sitting on the edge of the seat because I was so gripped by it. I almost didn't want to blink. I didn't want to miss a frame of this. His putative girlfriend, the police chief, she has sort of had her suspicions about Dexter, particularly in one very nice episode where she goes to a police conference and meets up with Dexter's old colleague Angel Batista, played as ever by David Zayas, and plants the seeds of suspicion in her mind about the Bay Harbor butcher. And all Dexter's past in previous series is referenced. So I don't think you necessarily need to have seen the previous series, but I think it will help if you've seen the first 3 or 4. And eventually she starts to get a little bit suspicious about Dexter and discovers that he's not actually Jim Lindsay at all. He's actually the missing Dexter Morgan. And this, of course, sets her off into her investigations, which lead to her piecing together the truth about who he is. The final episode is just so gripping that I think I put a message on Facebook today to say I don't think I'm going to see a better hour of television this year, because it was so beautifully written, so beautifully. It was like a jigsaw slotting together. Now, a few weeks ago, I was thinking about how the series is going to end, and there'd been some talk online, and I've kept away from a lot of the chatter on. I said, really didn't want to be spoiled on this. I wanted to go into this cold. And even though the episode was shown, I think, yesterday in America, I kept off looking at anything about spoilers because I really didn't want to know what happened at the end. But I was thinking about where the show was going to go, and I thought, well, there's been this sort of talk, will there be a season 2 of Dexter New Blood? And there's been sort of, well, we'll see what happens. Nothing's been confirmed yet. But I thought, well, if we're going to get the ending to Dexter that we deserve, I think the only satisfactory ending, much as we as viewers like the character and we sort of become involved and engrossed in him, the only way the series can really satisfyingly end is by Dexter coming to justice. Now, I believe one of the original plans was for him to be caught and to be on death row, but that, of course, would have left open the possibility that he didn't die. It's a big spoiler now, so if you haven't seen it, please stop watching now. Okay, episode 10, Sins of the Father, ends with Dexter dying. He's killed, appropriately enough, by Harrison. The final episode sees Dexter breaking his own code. He's caught by Angie, who knows the truth. He puts her off the scent slightly by telling her that he knows the secret of the girls who've been killed, because he knows that the hideaway where the bodies are kept is horrible. Frozen trophies. While she's away, he breaks free from the prison cell, but in doing so, he has to break his code by killing an innocent. And this time it's the coach of the local football team and the deputy police chief, who's become very friendly and who is great friends with Harrison. This is Dexter stepping over the line. This is Dexter's point of no return. He arranges to meet Harrison. His plan is for them to just drive away and disappear and start a new life. Los Angeles is mentioned at one point. But when Harrison realizes what Dexter has done to free himself, he realizes that Dexter's taken that step too far. He realizes that Dexter has killed an innocent, and he doesn't want to be part of that life. He doesn't want this life to carry on. Dexter, I think, and it's a beautifully played scene, they're out in the snow, it's just the two of them. And Dexter, you can see it in Michael C. Hall's face and in his eyes that, the game's up. He knows that he can't run any further. He can't twist and turn any further. There's nothing else he can do. And he in an earlier episode, I think the previous episode, the Christmas episode, he showed Harrison how to use a gun and to take the safety catch off. And all these little Chekhov gun things play off really well. Not just in the sense that it is a gun, but there's things that are seeded throughout the episodes before, which really sort of pay off beautifully in this finale. And eventually, Dexter accepts that time's up, and Harrison takes the shot that kills him. And we see him lying in the pool of blood, spreading pool of blood in the snow. Angie comes along and she covers for Harrison. She sends him away, tells him to leave the town and never come back. She gives him some money so he can go off and start a new life, because she sort of appreciates that Harrison is his father's son, but doesn't have to go the same way. It's a magnificent ending. I mean, I think that Clyde Phillips and the whole team and Michael C. Hall and everybody involved have done an incredible job making this show in pandemic circumstances as well. But I think possibly the nature of the location probably helped that a little bit. They were able to do a bit more sort of social distancing and all that sort of stuff. But it doesn't look like that sort of show. It doesn't look like a restricted show. But I think that they've done a brilliant job in turning the show's reputation around. So I think that now when people think of Dexter, they will think, oh, pity went off towards the end. But then, oh, wow, it really redeemed itself in this final season. And I think it absolutely has. You'll shortly see a video of my top 10 shows of 2021. And Dexter's very high on that list. I'll just say that at this point. Because it was everything I wanted it to be, and quite a bit more, to be honest. At the moment, that seems to be the end. I mean, it's the end of Dexter. Dexter is gone. Dexter is dead. Whether there'll be a series now following Harrison, online chatter suggests that there might be. People are asking for it. And incidentally, I've just noticed before I started filming this that Clyde Phillips, the producer, has put a Twitter message saying exciting Dexter New Blood news coming on Monday. I suspect this might be that there's going to be a series following Harrison. I don't know that I want that, because this just was such a good finale and wrapped everything up for Dexter so nicely. I don't really want to see what happens afterwards. I like to think that Harrison is driving away from his past to a better future. I don't want to see him following in his father's footsteps, because I think that would slightly undo the ending that we'd had in this. So I really hope that, much as I love Dexter and I think it's a terrific show, he's a great character, he is now dead. I don't want to see the next step in the family chain, if you like. But that's just me. So there we are. That's Dexter, New Blood, which is available on the Now platform if you haven't seen it yet. All the episodes are there. It's on Sky Showcase. If you've been watching it there, they may well have their own catch-up service, I'm not sure. But I was just utterly engrossed by this. Brilliantly written, brilliantly performed, brilliantly plotted, brilliantly acted. There was nothing I could fault in it, really. It really was. I mean, I suppose if you want to pick little things, you probably can, but I just don't see the point sometimes. When you're enjoying something so much, just enjoy it. Magnificent achievement from everybody all involved. Absolutely redeems Dexter and set a very high bar for this year's TV, that's for sure. That's Dexter. If you've watched it, why not let me know what you've thought of it? Did you think it was a good ending to Dexter in the end? Were you frustrated that he died? Do you think there was another way around it? Do you want to see a sequel series with Harrison? Let me know what you think. Put a comment down below. I will always respond. Like and subscribe if you've stumbled across this video, because I do lots of stuff like this. As I say, look out for more stuff coming up soon. Until I see you next time, you know what they say. You got to keep taking the stuff.